Fine-tuning a model to teach it new facts might be the single most expensive mistake happening in AI right now. I'm Kuro, and later in this video I'll show you the exact moment a fine-tuned model confidently recited a price that hadn't been true in months. Everyone says just fine-tune it or just add rags like the two are interchangeable. They're not, and mixing them up wastes real money. Before fine-tuning or rag even enter the picture, start with what a base model actually is. It's trained once on a massive pile of text and then training simply stops. The instant that training run ends, its knowledge freezes solid. Nothing after that cutoff date exists for it. Nothing private ever did. And that one gap is about to crack open into two very different problems. That frozen snapshot causes two very different cracks. Crack 1. It's never seen your private documents or anything that happened after training ended. Crack 2. It has no idea how your company or your product is supposed to sound. Two different problems, and grabbing the wrong fix for either one is about to get expensive. Two different cracks get two different name fixes. Fine-tuning actually retrains part of the model's own weights. RAD never touches a single weight. It just hands the model better notes the moment it answers. Confuse the two, and you will fix the wrong crack expensively. So which one does your use case actually need? If your model doesn't know your company's product, is that a job for fine-tuning or for RAG? Don't answer too fast. There's a real trap hiding in that question. Guess in the comments. Let's open up fine-tuning first, mechanism and all. You start with a labeled dataset, question answer pairs, or example after example of the tone you want. The model makes a prediction, gets compared against the correct label, and comes up a little wrong. That error gets pushed backward through the network. Gradient descent, nudging the weights themselves. Say that again slowly. The model's actual internal weights change permanently, but one pass through the data is nowhere near enough to get it right. That whole cycle doesn't run once, it loops over and over. Each full trip through the entire dataset is called an epoch. Too few epochs, and the model barely learns your examples at all. Too many, and it starts memorizing them instead of generalizing. That's overfitting. An overfit model aces its training examples and falls apart on anything slightly new, and that's before we even get to what this actually costs to run. Full fine-tuning used to mean retraining every single one of a model's weights. For a modern model, that's brutally expensive. Most teams simply can't afford it. So the practical answer today is parameter efficient fine-tuning. LoRA being the most common version. Freeze almost the entire model and train only a small bolt-on adapter instead. You get most of the benefit for a small fraction of the compute and storage, assuming you actually have a reason to fine-tune in the first place. So why does fine-tuning exist at all, concretely? Ask a base model to write a support reply, and it sounds like nobody. Generic, safe, forgettable. You can paste style instructions into every prompt, but it drifts, and it eats tokens every single call. Fine-tuning bakes that voice directly into the weights once so you stop re-explaining it forever, but permanently cuts both ways. If fine-tuning bakes in a tone permanently, what happens when your brand voice changes next year? Not a trick question, actually think about it. Fine-tuning is powerful, but it has real name limitations. It needs a genuinely good labeled dataset that's real human time, not free. It does nothing for factual freshness. Retrain it today and it's frozen again tomorrow. Push it too hard and it can suffer catastrophic forgetting, losing older skills while learning new ones. None of that shows up on the marketing slide. So if fine-tuning can't fix stale facts, what actually can? RAG solves this a completely different way. It never opens the model up at all. Your question triggers a search over an outside knowledge source, not the model's memory. The most relevant chunks get retrieved and pasted straight into the prompt. The model then answers using that injected context live at inference time. Not one weight inside the model ever changes, ever, which sounds great until you ask what RAG is actually protecting you from. RAG exists to fix a completely different crack than fine tuning does. A base model has never seen your internal wiki, your contracts, your private code base. And it has no idea what happened after its training cutoff, including this morning's news. RAG hands it that missing context on demand without retraining anything, but search outside knowledge is doing a lot of hidden work in that sentence. Zoom into that search outside knowledge step because that's where RAG lives or dies. First, your documents get chunked and converted into embeddings, meaning vectors, ahead of time. Those vectors sit in a vector database waiting to be searched. Your question gets embedded the same way, and the closest matching chunks get pulled out. Only those chunks, not the whole database, get stuffed into the prompt, assuming the search actually grabbed the right ones. If the vector database returns a WAGG chunk, does RAG actually save you, or just make the wrong answer sound confident? Sit with that one before you scroll. RAG isn't magic, and its very first limitation might quietly wreck everything else it promised. If the vector search grabs the wrong chunk, the model answers confidently from the wrong source. There's also a latency cost. Every answer now waits on a live search first. And RAG never touches the model's underlying reasoning or writing style. It only changes what it's reading, which raises the real question: how do you even choose between these two? Boil the whole mechanism difference down to one sentence each. Fine tuning changes who the model is, its style, its skills permanently in the weights. RAG changes what the model knows for this one answer. Borrowed, temporary, never permanent. Neither one is better on paper, but the moment money and speed enter the picture, one of them gets a lot more expensive fast. Zoom out to cost and speed because the shape, not the exact numbers, is genuinely different for each. Fine tuning is expensive upfront, data, compute, a real training run, then cheap per answer. RAG is cheap to set up, but every single answer now pays a small ongoing search and retrieval tax. There's no universal winner on cost alone. So let's turn all of this into an actual decision you can make today. Here's the decision, stripped of all the hedging. Need fresh or private facts that change often? Reach for RAG first. Need a consistent voice, format, or specialized skill? Reach for fine tuning first. Need both at once? You don't have to pick. Plenty of real systems run both together, but here's a case that'll test whether you actually got that. A support bot that needs your brand voice and this week's return policy, one fix or two. Lock in your answer before the next chapter gives it away. That support bot is less a trick question and more a preview of what real production systems actually look like. Fine tune the model once so it always sounds like your brand and follows your format. Then wrap RAG around it so it always answers with this week's actual policy. Same model, two upgrades, solving two completely different problems. So what does it actually take to build either one? This isn't theoretical, real tooling exists for exactly this. Hugging Face's PEFT library is the open source standard for LoRa style fine tuning. OpenAI also runs its own fine tuning API for teams who'd rather not manage training infrastructure themselves. Bloomberg took the extreme version of this idea, training Bloomberg GPT from scratch on financial data. RAG's tooling world looks nothing like that. RAG has its own, equally real tooling ecosystem. LangChain wires up retrieval, tools, memory, and agents into one orchestration layer. LlamaIndex leans simpler, built specifically for ingesting and querying your own documents. Most production RAG systems today are built on one of these two, not from scratch. But will that split even still exist in a few years? 10 years from now, do you think RAG and fine tuning still exist as separate ideas? Or do they quietly merge into one thing? No wrong answer here. I genuinely want to hear yours. Quit myth, I need to personally murder before we wrap up. Just fine tune it to teach it new facts. No, please everyone stop saying that. Fine tuning is shockingly bad at reliably injecting new facts. It learns STY far more reliably than it learns truths. Remember that moment I promised you at the start? That's a rag job. It was always a rag job, so let's lock in that distinction for good. Let's land this whole episode in a few seconds. Fine tuning retains the model's actual weights. It changes who the model is. RAG retrieves fresh context at the moment of answering. It changes what the model knows temporarily. Fresh or private facts reach for RAG. Consistent voice or skill reach for fine tuning. Need both, combine them. That's fine tuning versus RAG. Not rivals, just two different tools for two different jobs. Next time, what's actually happening inside attention and transformers? From scratch. Which one does your project actually need? Tell Kuro in the comments and subscribe if this finally made a click.